there was no one to judge you, would you make different choices? Why make choices in your life based on what everyone else thinks is best for you? What about trusting your intuition and just going with what you think? Everyone has the power to make inspired choices. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the creativity that is you. Now, here's the host of Inspired Choices, intuitive life coach, Christine McIver.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We had some technical problems here. I don't know about you, but it certainly is fun when those things happen. But, you know, you just got to keep breathing through it and just keep believing it's all going to be fine. And it eventually always works out. So thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Christine McIver. I am your host today. And we have a special guest with us, Sandra Grant, better known as Sandy. Sandy, are you with me?
I am.
Welcome, Sandy. I'm so excited to have you here and for you to share your story with everyone.
Oh, it's going to be great. looking forward to the adventure.
Excellent. It's always fun to have a new one, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So before we get into our call with you, Sandy, I just want to go over with everyone last week. We were talking about carrying judgment, blame, and resentment and how it is like drinking poison. I hope everyone received some information about that and started to see how that really can be very impactful in how you can take your power back. We discussed how holding on to the focus of other people can make you sick, no one else. You know, when you're angry with someone or you're judging someone else, they don't even have any idea about it, but it is impacting you for sure. So what we want to do is help you to do the right thing and to find peace. Always ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to be at peace? And that's so important to keep asking yourself that through the difficult times, through the challenging times for sure. So if you have any comments or questions about last week you'd like a little bit of guidance on, please feel free to email me at christine@inspiredchoices.ca. So Sandy is our guest today, and I'm just going to take a minute and read Sandy's bio, and then we're going to get right into our conversation. So Sandra Grant was born and raised in Trail, British Columbia, Canada, gorgeous province in Canada. She struggled to believe in herself for many years, thinking self-acceptance would only be achieved through her accomplishments and the approval of others. After a number of years of making many satisfying accomplishments, she found herself still feeling an internal void. Sandra then consciously set out on a quest of soul-searching. Throughout her life, Sandra has been challenged with drug and alcohol dependency, food addiction, low self-worth, cancer, divorce, and has lost many friends and acquaintances to some of these same issues. She works on these areas and the feelings that surround them on a daily basis and is grateful to have accumulated over 20-plus years clean time from active addiction of drugs. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
With the assistance of a power greater than herself, she has paved the way for others to follow. Sandra has been working in the business field since 1985 and loves her work in this field. Today, she is also deeply passionate about assisting others in determining what they want to experience in their lives and how to make that happen. Sandra is truly grateful to have found this passion and the ability to experience it on a daily basis. She feels honored to share her life with others, and we feel honored to have you with us today, Sandy.
And it's great being here, too. Great being here, too, as well.
Excellent. So Sandy and I first met about 2007. I was working for a company here in Guelph, where I'm located, as an HR manager. And actually, I was one of the people that actually hired Sandy on in an accounting role there. And after about a year and a half, we lost touch. We both moved on in different roles in different organizations. And then one day, as it was, we found each other through Facebook, which was very cool. And we connected again at the I Can Do It conference put on by Hay House in Toronto. And then Sandy came to a vision board workshop that I was putting on. And from there, she contacted me and said, Christine, I think I'd like to work with you. So, Sandy, why don't you take it from there and tell us a little bit more about yourself and where our journey continued from?
Well, I'm going to actually start that journey off at where you had mentioned the I Can Do It conference in Toronto, and I've been there 2 years now. The last one was in May of 2011, but the first one that I actually attended was in 2010, and it just seemed every speaker that I listened to, you know, I wanted more of what they were saying, like they were actually talking to me, like directly to me, even though we were sitting in a room full of many, many people. They were talking my story. So it just gave me that thirst to want to know more, and I sort of basically before that was along that path, but it just seemed to resonate with exactly where my path was taking me at that point in time. So that led me to when I saw your vision board workshop. It's, you know, the world is such a big place. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? There's so many choices, and throughout my path so far, as the years go by, I just seem to be seeing more and more choices, and it's just wonderful. You know, so that's the vision board. It gave me a lot of different ideas to look at. A lot of them weren't full-formed pictures. They were just ideas. And as time goes on, they're actually coming into play of what the whole picture means, and not just the picture itself, but the feeling I get from it. And for me today, it's about the feeling that I'm achieving as I'm walking forward. So that's why, you know, I had to get more into developing that, and, you know, what questions can I ask myself? Where do I need to go next? And, you know, it's been a wonderful experience so far, and I'm just so grateful that, Christine, that you've come back into my life again to help me in that journey.
I'm happy that we met again. It's been quite a ride. So what was it about life coaching that kind of drew you in? What was it about the actual process that was appealing to you, Sandy? Because I don't even know if you understood what life coaching was all about, but I don't think a lot of people understand what it can actually do and how it works.
Well, to try and put it in the best words as I possibly can, is I was used to the traditional, you know, you go to school, you learn things from a textbook, and you try to apply them in your daily functionings of what job that you are in and what career path you've gone into. But life coaching is more of how do you deal with the things that are just, I mean, life happens. But how do you deal with that? How do you learn how to cope with that? And how do you know what is yours to deal with and what isn't yours to deal with? And, you know, it's about the choices. And a lot of the sayings is, you know, that we've heard is we can't control what events happen, but what we can control is how we react to them. So for me, it's been the awareness of it. You know, how do I react to certain things and why? Like, where's this all coming from? Like, I don't have to continue on being that same person with those same belief systems that came from who knows where, because they're just so common now to me because it's been so repetitive, right? But to be aware of what they are and to change them and just opening doors a little bit to new adventures and new ideas and new way of looking at things.
Okay. So, Sandy, why don't we back up just a little bit, and why don't you tell us what you do for a living?
Well, I'm an accountant, and that could lead to a lot of variety of different areas, but I love what I do. I love the accounting field, and but what I like most is I've had a variety of different jobs, but what leads me to leave a current position is the atmosphere that I'm working in. Because I also want to feel like I belong and that I'm making a difference, you know, regardless of what I'm doing. And to me, that's key. That's huge. And it's why there's been some areas that, you know, I'd be with a job for a year and I'd go looking elsewhere. It's because the atmosphere just isn't working for me. So life coaching too is leading to what kind of atmosphere? How do we want to feel? You know, that's huge for me. Mm-hmm.
So when you were in different jobs, what was it that was niggling at you about not the right atmosphere? What was it that you were looking for?
Well, I'm looking for what inspires me. And sometimes that's not an easy question to answer. So it's it's a process of trying new things, right? And to be able to try new things and being comfortable with that is, you need to have support doing that. So when I mention the atmosphere, I'm looking for a supportive atmosphere and, adventurous to try new things and to try new ideas. And we get so stuck in our rut of we've always done it this way that we never try new things. And we could be missing out on more efficient opportunities, a lot of different creative ideas. And I mean, it seems really strange hearing an accountant talk about creativity. But
yeah, it's not the standard when we think of an accountant.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because we're so used to, this is the way the debits go and this is the way the credits go and that's the way it's always been. But that is the foundation of it all, of course. But when it comes to new ideas and new products, that's where the creative ideas come into it, right? And it's neat because my role is I'll do the financial aspect, but with these new products and these new ideas. And it's really, really interesting, just new doors opening and, lots more things to learn and different areas to learn. It's not just the accounting field. It's a lot of the stuff that goes with that. So it's wonderful in that way.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that when you have a skill, you have an accounting skill, and you've obviously gone to school for that. But when you were out looking for the right fit, it was something that was going to speak to different areas of your spirit, not just your skills.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
I needed to have a part of me in there as well, not just doing the function, but the part of me that is my spirit, that is my soul, that where the inspiration is coming from. Right? You could have anybody that is actually doing a job function, but when you get the person's personality in there, that makes a whole different.
Okay.
So
what does inspire you, Sandy?
Well, I look at this question and it's, there's a variety of things and how I can answering that, but I think the key for me is knowing that I've made a difference in other people's lives. And that's huge. Like, I love doing what I'm doing, but I also like to share all of the experiences that I've gone through, and because they've not been pleasant. A lot of the challenges have been huge, but I've learned to overcome them, and I've learned how to deal with them, and I've learned to ask other people for help with dealing with all of the things that have crossed my plate, because it's not been an easy journey, and we weren't put here to deal with it alone. But I had to learn that first before the rest of, And I know there's quite a few of us that run into that, mishap that we got to do it all by yourself.
I don't want to take you down a negative road, but I think it's important for our listeners to understand some of the significant challenges and moments that you've had in your life. Can you share a couple of them with us?
Well, when I first entered into the world of recovery, even though I didn't know what it was at the time, I just didn't want to be alive anymore. I was in my early to mid-20s, and, I had nothing. I could not see anything to look forward to. I just did not want to be alive. And that's where my journey began, because at the same point in time as I had 2 little kids at the time. And they deserve better. They deserve to have a mother. They deserve to have, the fun and excitement in their lives growing up. And I didn't know how to provide that. So I felt worthless. I didn't know how to do that. So, that change required me to surrender and ask for help. And that was my first lesson in learning how to ask for help, because I did not have the answers. I didn't know what the next step would be. I didn't know where to even look for when it came to trying to find a happy feeling even, and it was a huge step. It was a huge step. And those steps, I find I get constant reminders as the years go by as well, because I forget. And then I go back to trying to do things on my own again. And sure enough, there'll be another obstacle that crosses my path. And the second huge one was being diagnosed with cancer. That was another huge thing. And so that was
these these events in your life were many years apart, were they not?
Absolutely. I was diagnosed in cancer. It was 2007, but yet when I first entered recovery, it was, 1991. So it's well over 20 years ago. So for me, I guess I'm a slow learner, and I need to keep being reminded that I don't have to do this alone, right?
Well, and just so our listeners realize, Sandy, you're very articulate on the phone, and you're being very open, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate it. But just so everybody understands, I was Sandy's HR manager. When she was diagnosed with cancer, I was not told what it was. Sandy really, really held things very close to her chest. And you did not share easily, did you?
No, not by a long shot. I guess I was trying to convince myself if I didn't talk about it, it wasn't going to be real. I'm serious.
How did that work out for you?
That's what I thought. The less I talk about this, it's just something that, it's just words. It's just words. And I found that, number one, I'm going to have to deal with this, right? So how do you deal with that until you start talking about it? And, people are asked, well, how you feeling? What's on your mind? And I did not want to tell them because it was going to bring that reality right in front of my face, and I would have to deal with it. So it was a long process.
So eventually, I'm guessing you did pull your head out of the sand and face the reality of what was in front of you. Absolutely.
But it's I would like to say kicking and screaming, but I had to. And, I just thank goodness for the people that I had in my life at the time because, they asked me, how you doing? And I could tell them, oh, I'm okay. But they could see through it, and they prodded a little bit further to break that wall down because I was building up walls. Again, I was building up walls. I have to deal with this on my own. I don't want to whine to people. I don't want to be a burden. All those things that my saboteur in my head tells me that, I'm not important. You'll get, people don't care. All of those negative things that we constantly tell ourselves. I was grateful enough and I was fortunate enough to have people in my life that saw through that and prodded a little bit deeper and said, you know what, it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be afraid.
Right.
It's okay to ask for help, And I didn't know. I didn't know.
So I think sometimes we get confused with talking about our negative emotions or talking about things that are negative in our life to resolve them and talking about them just to complain. I think there's a big difference between the two. And on the one hand, if all we're doing is complaining, we're actually multiplying that experience, and we can actually, in fact, attract more negative experiences to us. But when we are actually talking about them with the proper resources, with the people that can actually make an impact, for you it would be talking to your close family so you have their support, talking to the doctors that are going to help to make you well, right?
Yeah.
And getting the support around you. Not that we have to share all of our personal details, but, there is that fine balance between complaining or actually taking that information and moving in the best direction. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure. I would agree totally. There needs to be that process that you need to feel how you're feeling, whether it's you're frightened, whether you're scared, whether you're whatever. You need to still process those emotions so you can get beyond it and, okay, now what do I need to do to take care of this? What is my next step?
Right.
So it was very challenging to learn that, and I had to learn it very quickly, for sure, very quickly.
But as you said, this was not the first experience that you had, Sandy, to learn this, correct?
No, it's
you
not
had other
the first
opportunities, and it was just another lesson.
Oh, for sure. And life has been full of, anytime I look back on any obstacles that I've had to overcome, there's all of the lessons in there involved. It was learning how to ask people for help, learning, how to show somebody that I have tears, because I always thought it was a sign of weakness and we shouldn't do that. So I wouldn't cry. I would stifle my feelings, and I would not cry until I was in a room by myself.
Isn't it interesting how we hold on to everything, and yet we've been made to interact with each other and made to support each other? I mean, we experience life through relationships, and yet oftentimes we feel we have to hold it all in.
We do.
It's quite interesting. So, Sandy, I have a question from a listener, and I'd like you to think about it. I'd like to get your perspective on this when we come back from break. And the question is about worry. And the listener says, I like the saying, worry doesn't empty tomorrow of its sorrows. It empties today of its strengths. And she would like to know, how does she put that into practice? So can you share with us, Sandy, when we come back from break, what you would suggest for this person? How did you handle, with all the things going on in your life as single mother, how did you handle dealing with worry? Stay tuned, everyone. We're going to be speaking with Sandra Grant when we come back. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get you a caller. Please call in to the 1-800 number or email Christine at inspiredchoices.ca, and we will ask Sandy her perspective. Hold on, Sandy. We'll be right back.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us, my name's Christine McIver. I'm an intuitive life coach, also an HR consultant, and on the call today we have a special guest, Sandra Grant. She's sharing with us the challenges she has had in her life and how she has made different choices to help her move forward in her life. And it really does come down to that. As I'm working with all of my clients, you always have the choice, and it always comes down to your choice and how you can take back your life through the power of your choices. You are not a victim. If you've been listening every week, you hear me say this over and over again. You're not a victim to your life. Things happen, yes, and then you have the opportunity to make a choice and decide what direction you want to go in. We would love to connect with you, so call in or email. And if you're not able to and you're listening to this call after today, please connect with me through my website, inspiredchoices.ca, or through Facebook, Twitter, email, whatever works for you. And let us know what it is about the show that you enjoyed today and what you'd like to learn more about. We're always open to hearing what would help you in your life. And isn't it wonderful that we just get to ask for a little bit of help? Now, before we went to break, we had a question from a listener about worry, and I said to Sandy I'd like to get her perspective on it. So the listener said, I like the saying, worry doesn't empty tomorrow of its sorrow, it empties today of its strength. And she would like to know, how do you put that into practice? It all sounds good, but how do we put it into practice? Sandy, what did you think about during our break about that question?
Well, when I take a look at the worry and the whole aspect of it, and what it accomplished for me is just drains my energy. Like, I've never really been able to accomplish anything by worrying about it. It just depletes my whole energy system. And, you know, what I've learned throughout my years is, when it comes to worry and things that I just can't let go of, that's when I try meditation in my life, right? And sometimes it's a question of a guided meditation that will help me focus on just listening to I'll put my iPod in my ears with my headphones, and I'll just listen to them guide me through walking down a beach and hearing the waves flipping on the shore. And, you know, it doesn't take the worries away, but it takes the focus off of it for a bit. You know, it's like they say, we can only think so many thoughts at once, and there's only one thought that we could have at this moment. And the second I say something about a blue elephant, you know, everybody's thinking about a blue elephant, right? So you're not focused on what that stress is right at that moment. So it allowed me to get a bit of a break from what that worry was at that moment. And what's the worst that can happen, right? When we're focusing on something and we have no control over it, and I believe that, that's where my worry always came from, is I had to figure out how to fix it. Yeah, sometimes things weren't meant for me to be fixed, They just had to play themselves through.
You just had to go through it.
Absolutely. But that's a process that, it takes time and it takes practice to learn how to let it go, because I just keep wanting to grab it back because I got to fix it, I've got to make sure that it works properly. And a lot of the times that's not my job, right?
And does that go back to the belief system that you incorporated many, many years ago around that you had to accomplish everything on your own? You had to prove yourself.
Absolutely. That is exactly where it came from. And Lord forbid, if somebody comes to me and they're just talking to me and they've got a problem, then I felt like I needed to have their answer. So it just increased the burden. And I know, like, a lot of people aren't expecting me to fix it, but it's what I expected. I had to fix that person's problem, and I had to fix what was going wrong over there, and I had to fix this, and I had to fix that, to a point where, okay, please don't come near me anymore and tell me any more stuff because I can't do anymore.
Right.
And I didn't realize it wasn't my job. Right.
So asking yourself kind of, do I own this?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. I think sometimes, too, if we are in relationships with people, whether they are, our spouse, our boss, whoever they might be, when they're going through something, we sit back and we kind of hold the tension and we worry about their choices. And it actually gets us into such a negative place that we come to that relationship in a negative way. We actually don't empower that person. We actually disempower ourselves. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes, it's almost like we're taking their lessons away from them.
Right.
Things happen in our lives. There's a lesson there to be learned, and if we don't learn it, it's going to keep repeating until we do learn it. So when I'm taking the control from everybody else, I'm basically robbing them of their lessons.
Right.
And it doesn't serve me or the other person. But it took a long time to learn that.
Right. The other thing that I remember hearing a number of years ago, because as a codependent myself, I actually didn't get the addiction gene, but I got the codependent gene. So I would be a great worrier and like you said, go around and trying to fix everything for everyone and worrying about it. At one point, I don't know where I read it or I heard it, but I heard when we worry, we're not trusting God. And whatever you want to call your higher power, believing and having faith is trusting that we will be taken care of. And that was a powerful, powerful message for me, to trust that things will be okay. In the end, it will still be okay. And we always have another choice, right?
Yes. And as the words, I believe, is Louise Hay that quite often on her meditation CDs and whatnot is, all will be well.
Yes.
And just repeat enough. I've used it myself. Many times, just reciting over, all will be well.
Yes. And I like how you said you use meditation. Other people may use exercise to change their focus. When we worry, we get into anxiety, and I know I touched on this last week, but I think it's worth repeating. When we go into anxiety, there is a chemical release in our body, and those chemical releases actually send messages to the rest of our body and actually put fat around our middle when we worry, and we hold that those chemicals within us. So if we can move, if we can even just go for a walk, and being in nature helps to calm us, we will actually move that chemical through us, lower our anxiety, and it's actually a healthy choice, a physical healthy choice, as well as a mental one. So I think that's important for us to realize that we are completely connected, mind, body, and soul, and everything that is happening to all three simultaneously.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree with that.
So, Sandy, here's a great question for you. What must you accomplish in your life at this point, what are you thinking about that you must accomplish?
Well, and I've played with this one for a while. My biggest thing is what I must accomplish is writing a book to leave behind my experiences. Sort of leaving a legend, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So that way other people can read, whether it's my great-great-great-great-great-grandkids are reading this book, they'll be able to see where I'm coming from, what I learned, what did I think, what did I now learn that was disbelieving what I originally thought, and just the new awarenesses that, so people can understand me and where I've come from and where I'm going, and the different choices that I made along the way. Some days are not good choices, but I learn from them when they're not good choices, and hopefully don't make that same not so good choice, right? But it's the learning adventure of it all. And that's what I want to...
When are you expecting to have your book ready for publication?
Oh, I've probably got about 6 months more writing to do. I'm about halfway through. And I'm just trying to recapture all of the different events and the journeys that I've been on so far. And, then it's going to be to the point, okay, where do you end it? Because the journey's still continuing.
Right.
Right? So,
quite the switch for the woman who wouldn't share much just a few short years ago.
Oh, 180-degree switch. But to me today, it's sharing the experience, strength, and hope in others, because when I first came into recovery, the thing that I remember the most is feeling alone and that nobody could understand where I was sitting and what I was feeling at that moment. And when I started walking into the rooms of 12-step programs, to just hear other people share and recognize that, oh my goodness, somebody else can relate to what I'm feeling right now. And it was like a bright light finally was shining. Somebody gets me. I'm not really crazy. Because I thought that I was crazy.
Sandy, what you've experienced in your life, would you say that what you're going to be sharing in your book, somebody has to have actually had or needed to be part of a 12-step program to understand or get some lessons that they can take with them from your book?
I think it's going to be a variety of a lot of different things, and it's not so much that they can relate to a lot of the experiences, but I'm going to try and communicate what the feelings were. Okay. So although we all have different stories and we may have similar stories, a lot of the things are going to be similar when it comes to the feelings.
Okay. All right, that's awesome. Well, I look forward to getting a copy of that, too. Maybe I can get a signed copy, do you think?
Oh, absolutely, you can. You will be one of the first ones.
Awesome. Now, you know this
that I
is
let
recorded.
Know once it's out.
You know this is recorded, so you can't go back on that.
Yes.
So, you're halfway done your book, and you're looking at 6 months down the line. What else do you do on a regular basis to help inspire other people?
Well, I've come into the common practice, and I believe it's at least a year ago, probably 2 years ago now, that each morning on Facebook, I'll find a positive quote to put up there for today, because that's how I start my day, is I read a lot of positive stuff, and I like to keep my train of thoughts on positive stuff, because, it makes for a better day when I started off on a good note. So excellent. I will post that in Facebook. And there's a lot of people that have come back to me and said, I just love reading those in the morning, and they actually look forward to them. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So we're about to go to break, and before we do, Sandy, I just want you to kind of capture in the last part of our call, just kind of sum up what it is that you've learned about yourself and about your journey, and some of the tools that you'd like to share with our listeners when we get back, okay?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so please stay on the call with us, and we'll be back to speak with Sandy Grant in just a few minutes. And you can connect with Sandy connect with myself at inspiredchoices.ca, and you can also connect on Facebook as well. Sandy has a website and Find Serenity Within, and you can also connect with Find Serenity Within on Facebook and on Twitter. So stay tuned, and we will be back shortly to finish up our call with Sandra Grant. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Christine McIver, and today we're speaking with Sandra Grant, and we're talking about Sandra's journey so far in her life, the challenges and the positive choices she's been making that's been making a positive choice in her life and the lives of others. Before we end the call today, I want to share with you a couple of books Sandy and I have spoken about that we think would be empowering for anyone listening that is looking for new practices in their life. A couple of books that I'd recommend is by Cheryl Richardson, The Art of Extreme Self-Care and Standing Up for Your Life. Cheryl Richardson is an amazing woman. You can check out those books on my website, inspiredchoices.ca. And Sandy, one of yours is by Louise Hay. What was the title of that one again?
Her positive affirmation CDs that are by Louise Hay, just absolutely wonderful. And she mentions in there, listen to it for 30 days and it will shift your perspective.
Excellent. So some of the practices that you use today, some of the tools that you kind of have in your toolbox of life, what would you say you'd like to share with our listeners that's made a difference for you?
Well, I normally start my day on a rather early note, but I do spend a lot of time, like I had mentioned earlier in this program, just reading positive books. And Hay House has got a tremendous amount of wonderful authors that write inspiring stuff, and it's a good way to start my day. You know, between that and I journalize. I'm writing, you know, how I'm feeling that morning, even if it's just a sentence or two. Just, especially if it's uncomfortable feelings, I'll write them, get them out of my system. They're done, they're over, and I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day. So that, for me, is the best way to start my day. Between that and, you know, just a daily meditation that I would read for, you know, 2 or 3 minute meditation in the morning to focus on, and, you know, it's a beautiful way to start the day.
So the choices that you have been making in your life, we talk about choices both on the radio show and as well in our coaching together, Sandy. Talk to us about your choices and how they have changed things for you.
Well, for a lot of the times, I didn't know that I had choices, and that was the big thing, is not knowing that you had a choice. Now, we always do. There's different circumstances and different consequences that come with each of the choices we make, but at least I'm aware today, and awareness is a huge key as well, but at least I'm aware today that I do have the choices, and that depending on which choice I make, you know, there will be consequences for each action I take, but at least I'm free. I have the freedom to make the choice, and that's key. That's huge.
And isn't it true, we often don't realize, we go along in our life and we think we have to be like the Joneses, or we have to be like the people down the street, or we have to be like our community or our society dictates. And that's not true, is it?
No, it isn't. It isn't. You know, society has dictated to us for so long, and we've just got so used to it that we don't question it anymore. Until you've got somebody like Christine that comes along and said, well, who says that? You know, and I'm serious, and, you know, that's what I love about you. I'll say something, and you'll say, well, who told you that? And, you know, half the time I can't even answer you. It just becomes so routine that that's the law, right? The so-called law that we live by. But we don't have to. There is a choice today that, you know, if it doesn't suit me anymore. It doesn't suit me anymore, so why do I want to continue believing that belief? I don't have to, and that's great about the choices that I have today, is I can choose a different path. And I have chosen a different path.
Fantastic. You've chosen some amazing paths in your life. Tell us about how your feelings now serve you.
Well, I've learned to rely on my gut instincts instead of numbing out my gut instincts. And, you know, I'll try down a path, and it's something new, and it feels foreign because it's new, but if it feels right, I continue going. You know, and the biggest example I can give for that is when I moved from BC to Ontario. I had never ventured that far. I was born and raised in Trail, BC. I never left. I stayed just in that small little area. But I can remember telling someone this story is the whole time, because I drove here from BC, the whole time coming this way, it felt right. So I just kept going. It felt right. You know how when, something that you're doing or you're about to do, you just know it's the wrong thing, but you do it anyway? It was completely opposite to that. It felt right, like the right move. And I was right. I've been here since 97. So, and I'm still here, and I've prospered. I've grown. I've learned so much. I've had numerous different doors open for me, different pathways that, it'll be the rest of my lifetime just trying all these different pathways, because it's just a wonderful experience of not feeling stuck.
So when you started, and I know that this has been a challenge for you, for me, for many of us, when you got out of your head and didn't have everything completely mapped out and you were just listening to your gut, just listening to what felt right, you were able to move forward even though you couldn't see the whole path. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. I didn't know where my life was going to go next. I didn't even have a job to come to when I moved here. But I had faith that it would all work out. The old famous saying again, Louise Hay, all will be well. I don't know how.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just dipping our toes in that water and trying it on, right?
For sure. Like this, the old saying goes, we don't need to see the whole staircase. We only need to see what the next step is.
Right.
And there's the balance to that, too, because my life came from a very structured, it was almost like a drill sergeant. Things had to be done a certain way in a certain, amount of time. And I've gone from that to a little bit more balance. I've still got routine in my life, but at least part of that routine includes free time, fun time, relaxation time, and time to just laze in the zero-gravity chair out at the lake and do nothing but look at the clouds. And I love it.
That's awesome. That is fantastic. I'm so happy for you, and I feel very blessed to be on this journey with you, and who knows where it's going to be taking us. So tell our listeners what your website address is.
It is www.findserenitywithin.com. And it's a fairly new website, and it's not much on it right now, but I'm building it as the weeks go by.
Fantastic. I'm so happy for you. Okay, so we've just got a couple of minutes before the show is done. I want to thank Sandy again for this wonderful opportunity to speak with her and share her story with us, and I know that she's touched other people's lives, and I'm already receiving emails about that, Sandy, so I'll share those with you after we get off the line. Over the next 2 weeks, I'm running a contest. We're promoting, if you promote my website and you have someone who likes my website, you have a minimum of 3 people, you're going to receive a 30-minute intuitive life coaching session. Tune in next week where we will be talking about dreams can happen. The world is full of dreams and dreamers, and thank goodness it is possible to move beyond pain, sorrow, and suffering. So tune in next week. We would love to hear from you. Connect with us at inspiredchoices.ca or Inspired Choices Inc. on Facebook. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. And Sandy, again, thank you for everything that you shared with us. It was really wonderful to have you.
You're welcome, and thanks for everybody for joining in.
And remember, everyone, you always have a choice. Have a wonderful week. We'll connect next Wednesday. Goodbye now.